Okay, so before we start po, once again, good afternoon po, Ms. Quibod, and really appreciate po your acceptance to our invitation po in conducting this interview. So before we start po with the interview proper, we'd like to get to know you a little bit better po. So if you could po, please give a brief introduction like yung name niyo po, your current location, and your occupation or affiliation po.
Okay. Is this like a formal interview or something?
Hindi naman po. It's we were tasked to know po kasi to get to know a few scientists po in ecology since we're all environmental biology students. So in an effort po para ma-expose po kami sa field, we'd like to know po yung pwedeng mapuntahan po namin if ever we decide to get into ecology po in the future.
Okay. Yeah, I was asking because kasi kung formal interview siya, I don't want to be too formal. So yeah, I want you to be comfortable as well. So yeah. It's not too formal, right? It's like just parang nagchichikahan lang tayo.
Yes po, like we want to get to know you better lang po and yung research article niyo po, ganun po.
Yeah, sure. Okay. My name is quite long, actually. My name is Maria Ninya Regina Maningo Quibod. I'm from Davao. Currently, actually, my hometown is in Davao del Sur, but I'm currently based in Davao City. I graduated my bachelor degree in UP Mindanao, BS Bio, major in ecology, and then I work a bit in National Institutes of Health because unlike you and on your young stage, you're already looking for what you want to be. But me, I'm still lost when I graduated my bachelor, so I really don't know where to go. So I went first because most of my friends are in the medical field. So I tried to go into research in the National Institutes of Health in UP Manila for a year, worked there for some projects, and then I realized that my forte is really on the field. I'm not, well, I like my work there because like I'm in the hospital and all. I think I'm helping people, but other than that, the happiness is not there. So when you choose your career, you have to think what makes you happy. Like it doesn't matter if you're earning, well, for me, it doesn't really matter if you're earning a lot as long as you like what you do. And then after that one, so I realized that the hospital is not really my field. I went to UP Los Baños to take my master's degree, wherein the paper that you saw online is already part of my master's degree. So even during my bachelor's degree, I'm already studying bats, and then my field is really into mammals. And then I went to UPLB for my master's, and then I specialize in cave bats as well. So currently, I'm taking my PhD in the Chinese Academy of Sciences in China. But then because of the lockdown, I was forced to stay here. I cannot go back there. But I'm on the final stage of my dissertation and manuscript writing. So I'm currently analyzing and writing some paper. Yeah, I think I said a lot. What else do you want to know? I worked a bit in the university. I worked like 2 years in Adamson University, and went to well, after I graduated my master's, I went to a consultancy firm to be a terrestrial biologist. And then I went to Adamson teach, and then I went to PhD.
Since you're in your current doctorate degree po, what are some significant experiences that, well, you're currently experiencing po, especially since you got to experience working in the field face-to-face and now yung transition with the current pandemic setting po?
Oh, I'm so lucky because before the pandemic went crazy, I was able to get my data for my PhD. That's why I need to finish one more experiment, but it's not possible because my experiment was supposed to be done in Paris, in a zoo in Paris, because I'm doing feeding trials. And then so that one we don't really know what we're going to do anymore. But before the pandemic went crazy, I went to, well, like you were asking, what were the most significant experience that I had during my PhD. I went to several museums in Europe. So I went to Germany, Netherlands, Vienna, because my current study is about the evolution of skulls of mammals, and I have to go to those museums so that I can take samples and specimens. So I went to several museums in China, in the National Museum of the Philippines, and as well as some of the museums in, well, most of the museums in Europe actually. Yeah, so during the pandemic, I was doing all of the table stuff, computer stuff. So I wasn't really like empty during the pandemic. I was still fully loaded. I was still working like crazy. So I was really lucky that time.
We are glad to hear that, but not even though we're all struggling, at least you were able to luckily collect the sufficient data that you needed for your dissertation po. Thinking back po sa brief intro that you said kanina, di ba you said po na you had a struggle in choosing your specialization. So what was it that made you choose ecology specifically? Kasi, di ba, since the Philippines, it's a very ecologically diverse country. So what made you choose ecology aside from botany or zoology and yun po?
Well, even before, like I'm really into the relationships of not really human relationship, but I'm mostly interested in environmental relationships. So basically, when you're studying ecology, you wanted to see what does one thing do to another. So I don't know if you have read the cave bat paper. So you are looking at the anong role nung habitat nung caves dun sa bats. So kailan mo masasabi na dumadami yung species or yung abundant ba ang isang cave, ang isang cave, and ano yung reason. So in ecological studies, you are really asking the questions why and how rather than what. So that's really what made me so much interested. But I'm much more interested in animal ecology, or mostly terrestrial ecology, because well, I'm into animals. Like I like animals so much rather than plants.
So, we would like to ask naman po regarding yung more about your study po, your research po. So the first question po is, besides the cave's physical features, disturbances, and the presence of cave-dwelling bats po, are there other reasons po why the study site was chosen despite all the available cave systems po dito sa Philippines?
Oh, it's quite personal for me. The study itself is quite personal already. And the study site was quite personal as well, because I that study wasn't supposed to be how do you call this, done, but my supervisor during my undergrad died. After we went to the BCSP conference we went there because I was presenting my study during my undergrad in the Biodiversity Conservation Society of the Philippines na conference. So that was WCSP, Wildlife Conservation Society of the Philippines before. And then we were just talking about during our travel from Manila to Baguio, my advisor and I, we have like a good relationship. We're just talking about some stuff and research stuff, and he was telling me that a former student of his was doing a rapid assessment of caves in Samal Island in the island in Davao City, nearby Davao City. And then that was the data that they had was lost. So nawala yung lahat ng information, yung notebook nila nawala. Hindi na nila alam kung kumbaga sayang yung study kasi nagpunta sila doon. Wala lang, just rapid assessment, just for fun. But then they had like a really nice information na nakuha. And then, so we were talking about that one and I was saying, sayang naman po sir, bakit nawala, ganyan. And then, after, like few months after we went to the conference, he died. So, and I was really thinking that why not continue the study that he was talking about? So, that was a bit personal really for me, because imagine I was studying in Los Baños, but I chose my study site to be in Davao. So it's not really something, well, you have to put it like, you have to put some scientific information as well, but good thing that nobody studied that island. Then that island is also good to studying because it's nearby a mainland. And then most of the study that was conducted was about marine animals and marine species and nothing about terrestrial. And cave studies is really not so, we're having not so much attention 10 years ago. That's why, well, aside sa personal siya, it became my interest as well. So yeah, that's how my study site was chosen. So sometimes when you are choosing also, like what I've said earlier, like kailangan mo kasi na gusto mo yung ginagawa mo eh. Gusto mo yung topic, gusto mo yung study, gusto mo yung field, then everything else will be just like for fun. You're not really working, you're not thinking of something else, you're just enjoying. Na hindi mo siya nire-regret na bakit ganun, bakit malayo, bakit magastos. But you're just enjoying and you're just having fun. So that's why some of the stuff that in my decision is mostly personal, because I'm thinking for my future career, I'm also thinking like would it benefit me morally and mentally.
Now po, I will now ask about po regarding po yung sa sampling. So, how did you identify po strategic locations on where to set up the mist nets po?
Okay. Well, I took a study on cave ecology when I was in my master's. So basically, that's one thing that helped me to decide what to do with the research, how to go with the research as well. And the caves itself were what do you call this? Suggested by the tourism office in tourism of Davao of Samal Island, because when you're doing your research, you have to coordinate with the locals. You have to ask with the government, like the local government unit, on the feasibility of your study. You have to discuss with them as well, and then that's how we chose it. So, and going around the island for a month, we, aside from the caves that they gave us, we also found some caves that was pointed by the local people. Like, we're going to one place and then they said, oh, there's another cave on this, may kuweba pa doon. Then we just go there. So if the time permits, but we already have our target caves in our minds on where to do the study. And then basically the method of mist netting were taken from a lot of references, a lot of studies that we're looking at. You have to put in the cave entrance. You have to go inside the cave. You have to wait for the emergence of the bat so that you can get the species that you need. it's not really necessary that we believe that we haven't sampled so much a lot. I still need to have a resampling of the island, because the island is quite big as well, and because of the limited time and budget that we have, hindi namin siya napuntahan talaga lahat ng study areas ng caves na kailangan namin puntahan. But with regards to the technicalities of the study, I did like a lot of research on the strategies on how we are going to deal with the sampling.
So in your research po, one of the things that you were able to discover po is that the abundance and richness of cave-dwelling bats increase with longer cave length, higher ceilings, bigger and multiple entrances, and presence of water po. So for my question, to what extent po can this information be used for the building of artificial caves for the conservation of bats po, and how effective will these artificial caves be po?
Depends, because like how you with your question, you are thinking like you wanted to build like a cave, like artificial caves, but I don't think it would be possible, because well, based on our observations, it would be they have some other factors that they consider as well, and number one of it is disturbances of the bats. And like, if you're going to build like an artificial cave, you need to have all of the microclimate that a cave would have, so that the bats will be able to habituate in that area. So like, kung magbi-build ka lang man din ng artificial na habitat nila, gawin mo ng what do you call this? Imitation siya nung cave environment. Kasi I don't know if any one of you have been in a cave. May nakapunta na ba ng cave sa inyo? Nakapasok na ba ng cave? Nakapasok ka na, Mariel?
Yes po.
You will see that.
I just wanted to say lang po na it was what I remember talaga was yung sa underground river nung sa Palawan. And then there was another cave that I went to na it was kind of small, and I think it was for an educational trip. I don't recall lang where yung location, and ayun.
Yeah, so yeah, you will see that it's totally different. The cave environment is totally different. They have their own ecosystem. You have little critters, you have little insects that will help the microclimate for the adaptation of the bats as well. So, but if you're really planning to do it, it would be nice, like what you've said in our data, because we've seen this if there are bigger caves, higher ceilings, and what higher ceiling that we are talking about in there, at least in our data, is like really cathedral type. Matataas siya. Almost, if you're going to equate it in a building, siguro mga nasa 8 to 10 floors. Ganun kataas yung mga ceilings kung saan namin nakita yung mga most of the species, yung species rich na cave. So, well, practically it would be impossible, I guess, to make an artificial habitat for bats. But the good thing that we can do is maybe, well, protect the cave system would be the one which is very feasible, because maybe some of the bats, you will notice some of the bats in some of the buildings, because some of the bats can live in building crevices, but there are some bats that are really highly specialized in caves, and even if you will have some artificial habitats, they wouldn't be able to survive.
So you mentioned po, a while ago that part of conservation po is to protect the natural caves that we have now po. So what specific actions po could be done po to help in protecting these caves and conserving these bats po?
Well, conservation in the Philippines has a long way. Like, we have rules, we have regulations, but the problem is how you are going to manage it, since our country is like an archipelagic country. Then kumbaga masyado tayong diverse, kaya mahirap mag-manage. So they have, like, the DNR have a cave management book on how the caves should be done, but we cannot do protection if we don't know where are them. So ang surveyed caves pa lang sa Philippines ay around 3 to 5%. So there are still around 2,000 to 3,000 caves that were identified. Pero 3% pa lang dyan yung nasa-survey talaga. Kaya mahirap siyang, let's say, sabihin natin na kailangan natin siyang i-protect if we don't know where are they located. But if they have been identified kung nasaan sila, then that would be easier. So like in Samal Island, after our assessment, so that's the good thing if you're doing assessments, environmental assessments, ecological assessments, because you are also helping the local government na identify, like, they haven't identified some of the caves that we had. They don't know what are in there. So when we handed the report to them, nakita nila na, ang dami palang bats dito. So they made a plan, they made like an action plan on how to conserve those caves. So unlike before, the one of the biggest caves that we went, they use it for tourism. And then in our recommendation that maybe you can still use it at tourism, but as much as possible, avoid the time that they are on the reproductive period, because bats have the tendency to throw their babies. So yung mga mama kasi, dala-dala nila yung baby nila even if they fly. Pero once they are disturbed, hinuhulog nila yung baby nila, then they will just survive. So maraming casualty pag nadidisturb yung cave. So makikita mo sa cave floor na maraming patay na mga maliliit na bats kasi ina-abandon na sila ng mga nanay nila. So yeah, that's one thing na sinuggest namin. Then another thing that we have suggested to the local government unit is to limit the people that going in the cave. So kasi yung cave na napuntahan namin ng pinakamalaki, yun yung may water. So meron siyang natural, like para siyang pool na ginagamit nila, na nililiguan nila. And then we said that it would be also good because it's like the tourism. So that's the thing that we concluded in our study, that some of these caves were good for tourism. It gives money to the barangay, to the local government, but at the same time, it is also threatening and disturbing the cave. So you cannot disentangle one from another. That's what ecology is, kasi you are looking into the relationship of humans, environment, and animals, plants, and all of this stuff in one system. But you cannot disentangle one from another. Pag tinanggal mo yung tourism ng cave, mawawalan ng trabaho yung tao. Masisave yung masisave yung cave system, pero mawawalan ng trabaho yung tao. So you have to make another option for them kung paano sila mabibigyan ng work. But at the same time, kung hindi mo naman poprotektahan yung cave system, malaki din yung mawawala. Like intangible stuff, like that bats are seed disperser, they are insect controller, and all of this ecological stuff that are intangible. So kaya kailangan mo siyang i-weigh in kung paano mo gagawin yung conservation ng isang ecosystem, ng isang, hindi lang kasi dapat per species ang conservation na ginagawa natin. We have to conserve the entire system kasi tangled silang lahat. So, yun lang yung binigay namin na recommendation sa kanila on how to go about with the caves. And I think naman yung iba na nagagawa nila, like yung limited yung pagpasok ng tao, and also like hindi na inaalaw yung hunting. So, when we went again to the cave, nakita mo na ang dumami yung naging abundant yung population niya. So, yeah. Pero ang conservation really is a huge topic to talk about. Ang alam natin is theoretical lang na kailangan natin gawin to, kailangan natin gawin yan. Pero the thing is how you are going to do it. So, kailangan hindi siya one time job lang na okay, tatapos yung study, nag-recommend ako kailangan niyo itong gawin. Kailangan kasi siya ng monitoring. Kailangan siya a long term. Kaya kailangan makipag-cooperate and collaborate with the local government unit on conservation of the system.
Next question po, ma'am. Aside from the difference in species diversity, what other noteworthy differences were observed between larger caves and smaller caves?
Madami kasi yung larger caves, well, at least in our experience, may mga species ka rin na hindi nakikita sa may mga species sa smaller caves na hindi mo nakikita sa larger caves. So may mga species hindi nakikita sa smaller caves, but yeah, the noteworthy differences is mas maraming, syempre mas mahaba, mas malaki, so mas marami talagang habitat do, mas maraming nag-habituate doon compared doon sa mga maliliit na mga caves na konti lang yung nakikita. Pero most of the caves small caves na nakita namin, sila yung mga may unique na species na nakita namin. So there was one cave na kailangan namin, it's really like underground, pababa siya, and then kailangan mong gumapang kasi yung entrance niya is just like mga 50 kalahating half meter lang, parang ganito lang kalaki yung entrance, so kaya mo talagang dumulas pababa. And then but when we went inside, we were so amazed kasi yung nakita naming species doon is one species that I haven't seen in my entire life pa. So sobrang wow, nakita ko siya dito, nakita ko yung yung mga babies na ganito pala nila ginagawa, nila kinikip yung babies nila. So it's different from what I thought. So kaya hindi mo rin pwedeng i-disregard yung mga smaller caves kasi may mga species doon na important na hindi na usually unique species even. So there was another cave na marami siyang holes. Pag tingin mo dun sa ceiling, maliit, marami siyang holes, and then there's one species of bats na dun ko lang din nakita, yung Megaderma spasma na false vampire bat na nakakumpol lang sila, 3 sila, and then nandun lang sila. So yeah, that was a few of the noteworthy species that we differences that we saw with the smaller and bigger caves.
Next question po. Kanina po na-mention niyo na you're currently conducting a study po, a paper. And what is this about po?
Oh, that was my dissertation paper. So I'm looking into like what I've said earlier, I'm looking into the skull morphology of herbivores. So I led my thesis to bovids and cervids, yung family ng tamaraw at yung family ng mga deers. So because they are herbivore species, they are distributed worldwide, and then they are eating spiny plants. So what I'm looking at is ano yung traits na nakaka-affect dun sa morphology ng skull. So if yung pagka-spiny ba ng plants has an effect to the morphology ng skull. So basically, I'm looking into diets and feeding.
Ma'am, as a graduate of base biology program po, what advice would you give to aspiring students who dream of being an ecologist someday?
like my supervisor say, all of them, both from undergrad, masters, and PhD, you have to go out because you cannot learn ecology when you're just inside your rooms. You have to go out, you have to explore, you have to find something to question because everything is in the environment. Kailangan mo lang magtanong kung bakit at ano. So, if you're not going to go out, you will not see how wonderful studying ecology is. Kung hindi ka. So, nagsimula lang kasi yan kasi mahilig akong umakyat ng bundok, mahilig akong pumunta ng dagat. Kaya yun yung isa sa parang naging naging passion ko na that I like climbing, hiking, ganon. And then kaya ako naging into ecological studies. So and like what I was saying earlier pa, you have to find what makes you happy. So that makes me happy, like going to the mountain makes me happy. And then kung nasa labas ako, I'm in the mountain, marami akong naiisip na ay bakit kaya ganito, bakit kaya ganyan, ano kaya isa dito, ganyan. So yun lang yung pinaka-advice ko sa inyo. Yun din sinasabi ng PhD advisor ko na you will not know this stuff just by reading. You have to see it with your own eyes. You have to smell it, feel it. So you have to go out. And I love to travel. That's one thing as well.
For the last question po, since you're currently studying in an international university, what advice would you give to students who also plan on studying abroad or in unfamiliar locations?
Be ready. Mentally, physically, emotionally, lahat ng kailangan mong maging ready. Hindi siya biro kasi you are going to a foreign land. Kahit naman may mga kasama akong Pilipino, hindi rin sila, kasi you have to be on your own. Kahit naman undergrad ka, nag-aaral ka pa lang may mga courses kayo, pero once you do your thesis, you have to be on your own. So I don't know if what is the thesis method in UST. Are you doing it by group or individual? Do you know?
I'm not sure po if choice ng student, but what I observe commonly po is naka-group sila usually.
So even if you're doing it by group, then you have to work on with your group. But in UP kasi individual yung thesis namin. So you have to be on your own. Walang ibang makakatulong sa'yo kundi ikaw lang. Ikaw magbabasa, ikaw magsusulat, ikaw mag-a-analyze, ikaw lahat. So maswerte ka na pag may advisor kang tumutulong sa'yo. And I have always been thankful to God na binigyan ako ng lahat ng naging advisor ko ay hindi naging sakit ng ulo ko. Lahat ay tinulungan ako. And that's also one thing. Wag kayong mag-graduate school ng peer pressure lang or nang may iba kayong pressure. Kumbaga, kailangan nyo mag-go into graduate school kasi gusto nyo matuto. Gusto nyo hindi ay wala akong makuha ng trabaho, sige, mag-aaral na lang ulit ako. Ganun. Yung mga friends ko mag-aaral na lang ulit ako. Yung ganun. So, hindi ganun yung thinking dapat pag nag-grad school ka kasi dapat talaga maging mentally ready ka. I have been in so many breakdowns. Nagme-mental breakdown din ako kahit na kasi may mga times na kini-question ko yung sarili ko, bakit ba ako nag-PhD? Bakit ko ba pinapahirapan yung sarili ko? Tapos pero at the end of the day, you have to realize that you're doing it for yourself. You're doing it for what you want to do in the future. So what you like to do. So may mga nagpi-PhD kasi na gusto kong pumunta ng ibang bansa. O gusto kong maggala kasi kaya magpi-PhD ako sa ibang bansa, ganun. Pero hindi dapat ganun yung thinking. As in, kailangan mo talaga maging mentally ready. Tapos maghanap kayo ng advisor na alam yung makakatulong sa inyo. So, pag in choosing advisor, kailangan yung mag-research muna. So, kung as much as possible, ask some of the advices of these people, of this professor na, paano ba siyang maging advisor? Paano ba siyang maging ganyan? Because that was my mistake in my undergrad. Nagpalit ako ng study eh. I was not really into bats. I don't have a choice. Kaya ako nag-bats. But, yung sabi nila na matututunan mo rin siyang mahalin. So, along the way, I learned that, okay, they're awesome as well. So, minahal ko na rin yung study ng bats. But, initially, nagpunta ako dun sa isang professor kasi, ang galing ng study niya, ang ganda-ganda. Tapos, hindi ako nag-research. Kung ako ng proposals, pinabayaan niya na ako. And then, during the defense, at the time of my defense, siya yung unang parang nag-drop sa akin. Kumbaga, parang hinulog niya ako sa channel ko. Parang, Ma'am, you're supposed to be the one helping me, right? Bakit mo ako nilalaglag? Ganon. So, I shifted my study. Then may nag-offer sa akin na yung supervisor ko ng undergrad na sinabihan niya ako na, may ready na ako na study ito. Kailangan mo lang itong gawin and all, ganyan. So, sir, okay lang, sir. Basta makagraduate lang ako. Kasi gusto kong gumraduate on time. So, I don't want to be delayed because of my thesis. Kaya, ayun. So, you have to choose your institution. You have to choose the professor properly. You have to choose the working environment. And then, I think, lastly then, wag mahirap sa abroad nang walang scholarship. So, if you can really find scholarship, practicality-wise, kailangan yung may scholarship kayo kasi pag wala, hindi nyo alam kung anong mangyayari sa inyo doon. So, mahirap mamuhay kahit na mahirap mag-grad school pag wala kang scholarship. Well, siguro if you're really wealthy enough and then your family can support you on your goals, then that would be really, 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 really good. But at the same time, sayang naman yung perang binibigay ng ibang bansa, di ba, na scholarship. Grab nyo na yung opportunity. Yun lang ba? I think yun lang naman dapat. Basta you have to be ready sa lahat ng mentally, emotionally, physically, lahat. And do your research.
Okay po, that's all naman po from us po. We once again thank you po sa lahat ng sinabi niyo. For sure, as we try po to find our own specializations din po, matatandaan po din po namin yung tips na sinabi niyo rin po sa amin.